My name is John McKeon, and I'm the moderator of the Teradata Aprimo River community, Teradata Aprimo's largest customer community. You can connect with us at teradataRiver2.com. Today, we'd like to welcome Gary Stutts, PMP Manager, Information Management and Analytics Services, Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina. Gary, welcome to the River.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Doing great. Gary, you are presenting at this year's Partners Conference on Automating Reconciliation, Building Warehouse Credibility for the CFO. Everybody needs to do that. It should be a great presentation. Gary, what are the first steps on really taking the journey to having the CFO believe your data?
So the journey to getting the CFO to believe in the data actually begins with understanding how the CFO wants us to see the data. So what he or his team's looking at in the data that they're having problems with. So once you identify that, we can start the journey towards remediation and fixing that.
Gary, you must have to go back to your source systems. How do you resolve the discrepancies from the beginning?
It was a bit of an uphill struggle, but you have to go back and find where the problems are generated in the source system. And it helps if you have internal contacts back into those areas, those departments. So we had several of our folks in the data warehouse staff were recruited from internal areas, so they understood the business practices. We would grab those folks and say, okay, can you help us with contacts? Can you give us some contacts back up in the source systems, the operational areas, so we can go talk to them and explain our situation? So that's what we did. We kind of built a grassroots team of, if you do this in the operational system, then it causes this in the data warehouse system.
Do you have multiple users and multiple perspectives in how they look at the data? How do you deal with those different perspectives?
You have to understand those perspectives. In our case, we had to understand what was driving the folks up front in the operational system to input the data a particular way, and then understand on the back end, when I say back end, I mean the users of the data warehouse, understand how those two are approaching and maybe even incentivized to do their job. So on the front end, if you understand how they're incentivized to go through and fill out a particular screen for customer information or for claim information, then you can see, are they skipping fields that really mean something to the downstream or to the back-end folks?
Well, Gary, I guess you have to engage the stats guys and put a business case or a number around this. What was the scale of data quality in terms of what it would cost the business if you didn't get it right?
Well, we finally got enough information put together where we could do a presentation to a senior management level group and had, in our case, health insurance. We have a staff of actuaries. So we had the chief actuary look at the numbers we were looking at in terms of data quality and spend some time on it with us. And he was able to come to an impact number for every X percent of error in the data, then it would have Y percent of impact to the company's bottom line. And in our instance, we boiled it down to for every 1% of error in the data, it could come down to as much as $15 million swings on the bottom line for the company.
That's just amazing. So you have a compelling story and you've got a lot of people around you. How do you actually sustain this with all the financial users? How do you keep them singing the same tune?
Well, we have reports that we monitor on a daily basis. We've set up an automated balancing system, and there's a good bit of this in the presentation because this is kind of the heart of it. We automated reconciliation, and the title of the presentation includes automating reconciliation, buying credibility with the CFO. So once we found the pain points, identified where we needed to put edits into the system to either stop or modify transactions. Most of the time we would stop and kick them back to the operational area, but you stop those transactions from coming through and getting loaded to the data warehouse. And on a daily basis, we have a process where we compare data sent from the source system, row counts, dollar amounts, and then data loaded into the data warehouse, row counts and dollar amounts. And row counts are pretty static. If you get 100,000 rows from the source system, you should load 100,000 rows. The dollar amount's pretty generic. You can just pick a dollar field. It doesn't really matter which one, but you should load the same amount of dollars for those records, for those rows as you get. And then we also balance it from a general ledger perspective. So we have a triangle of balancing. You balance the source system to the data warehouse to the general ledger system. And so as we do that on a daily basis, then we're providing support for our finance group to continue using the data and feel good about the quality of the data and the accuracy of the data. Because they know that we're balancing it on a daily basis, and if anything goes out of balance, then the support team is notified via email and a couple of reports.
Gary Stutts, Manager, Information Management and Analytics Services, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina. He'll be speaking at this year's Partners Conference, Building Data Warehouse Credibility for the CFO. If you're having issues with your CFO believing your data, you need to come to Gary's presentation. It should be a great session. Gary, look forward to seeing you at Partners.
Looking forward to being there. This is going to be great.